Rick, are you sure you don't want to do the intro?
No, I want to be a guest.
Okay. All right. But next week, hello and welcome to the Comedy Studio Podcast,
The
the
only
only
pod.
Cast.
podcast.
Yeah.
I'm your Huckleberry, Danny. He's your other Huckleberry, Eli.
Did you read some Mark Twain recently?
Yeah. It's his autobiography. I'm your Huckleberry. Came out 100 years after he died. Our special guest today is none other than Mr. Tom Sawyer himself. Today's Tom Sawyer, Rick Jenkins.
Wow, you're bringing me in early.
Yeah, it's the whole crew is here today. We're going to have special guest Shane Mauss dropping by in about half an hour. So either stay tuned or fast forward to that if you're listening in the future. But for now, let's catch up with each other. How we doing, fellas? How's the day treating us? Both Eli and Rick are looking away, and that's fine. I can vamp for as long as I
Oh,
want.
I'm sorry. I'm doing all right. I'm doing okay.
Yes.
Well, I was going to go first just to get out of the way and say that I'm doing well. Got up at 9 o'clock and have a list of things to do all day long. We started taking the temperature of some of the people involved in the studio, and I'm getting some feedback. So we'll be calling lots of people about how people feel about Massachusetts and us reopening.
Now, you say taking the temperature. You, of course, mean a rectal exam to see if they're feverish and able to perform on our shows, right?
It
Or
may
wrong?
feel
Fill me
that
in.
way, yes.
Tell us some more about this temperature taking. What's the deal?
Are rectal thermometers used anymore?
Yes.
Do you even buy one?
CVS.
I would imagine so, yeah. Why wouldn't you be able to? It gives the most accurate reading.
Yeah, those are still used.
Accurate.
Yeah.
Do you want some?
Yeah, I got a guy.
Yeah, thought that might be a generational
I
thing.
have a rectal thermometer guy, gives them to me wholesale. So you're sending notes to comics, taking their temperature about whether or not they'd be comfortable performing at an outdoor show hosted by the Comedy Studio.
Right now, I've just started by we're contacting people who are either business or financially or whatever connected to the club. So getting to the people who have a real big stake in it first, and then I'll be opening it up to a couple dozen comedians or anyone who's listening to this who has thoughts on the matter. I'd love to hear.
Comment section is open. Feel free to comment on whether or not you think we should reopen.
Yeah, let's get a debate going. Because, hey, it could be bad.
It could not work out.
I think outdoor shows probably are pretty safe. Unless you're in a giant fucking tent, like some places have, where it's completely enclosed. But, hey.
Wait, so what is the deal with the Giggles tent? Is it like complete? Is it
It's
like
got windows, so
you
that's all I
explain to
saw.
people what you're talking about.
Giggles, the comedy club in Saugus, Massachusetts, has started doing outdoor shows 3 per week. And they are in their big, they call it an open air tent. But I saw a picture of it, and it looks pretty enclosed.
is it one of those like wedding tents that has like the fake windows that are plastic?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, that's
Does
exactly
it
what
zip
is.
up?
So I've only seen the picture they posted, which was a wide angle shot from a bit of a ways away. I could not see if there was a zip or not, but I have to imagine. And maybe they leave it open. But it just seems like that is creating a more fertile ground for the virus than a completely open air under the stars type show.
I'm sure the scientists over at Giggles have it all under control.
You're right. Who am I questioning?
Just like our Comedy Studio science team.
Yeah. Please,
Well,
Rick.
I'm someone who has an inordinate amount of faith in the powers that be and the power structures of the country.
Why? Still, at this point,
our country's doing great.
Well, I'm the firstborn. The system. I'm firstborn white male. The system works for me. I don't know what you guys are having a problem with.
I mean, is the system working great for you right now?
So
because it's not working great for your brothers and sisters.
Right. Yeah. My question would be: is it? Does it comply with the, what we're supposed to be doing? Is it? It doesn't matter whether or not we think it's safe. Does the state think it's safe? Do the health experts we know think it's safe?
The tent?
Yeah.
I don't know. You're right. I'm no health expert.
I don't know, but again, I
But
think
the
the science team over at Giggles
Yeah, I mean, I would think it's not if the walls are down.
Yeah.
But if they're up, it's all about circulating air, about
Mm-hmm.
the virus being able to be taken away by the wind.
Well, I can tell you now that I've just found out about it from our science expert, Danny. I think it. I don't think it sounds very safe.
No.
And I'm
Well, it's
using my
exploding here.
science knowledge with my theater degree.
Oh,
Yeah,
perfect.
Danny, where did you find this image?
On their website,
Oh, okay.
they have a picture of the. I forget what it's. Let's see what it's called. It's like Giggles. What do they call it? Like the Giggles Hot Zone virus comedy tour.
Really? Huh.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty.
The Giggles virus comedy swirl with cherry on top.
Yeah, the virus is swirling through the atmosphere. Did either of you ever listen to that trash Opie and Anthony?
No, I didn't.
They had years ago. They had a tour called the Virus Comedy Tour, and it's like, wow.
What did that involve? What is the virus comedy tour? Yeah, you made Rick leave with that.
That they're just like comedy's a virus and we're spreading it. That's their whole deal. Okay,
And now they're like, a virus is a virus and we're spreading it. Ugh.
It's called the Giggles Pavilion. So I do see that part of the tent in this picture on their menu for their pizza it's like half open but half closed. So
It's half good.
it's half good. So maybe tickets in the like open part of a tent cost more than in the closed part. There's more risk involved, so it costs more money. Well, that wouldn't make any sense. I don't know. Look,
Yeah.
it just seems.
Maybe the more danger, the more it costs.
I will paste. Yeah, exactly. My logic was off there, but I'll paste the link in the chat so you guys can take a look at what I'm seeing.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I already did it, bro.
All right, let me go check this out.
Take a look and I'll vamp a bit. Take a look at the book, Giggles Rainbow. Now, Giggles, of course, also
Prince
a site of
Pizzeria.
controversy before this when Louis C.K. dropped in at Giggles, one of his first performances after his totally real apology. You guys looking at it?
I'm looking at Frank Santarelli headlining Saturday, July 25th. Look at that.
Yeah, but you see the tent?
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. So it's got half of the side with the windows, half of the side open. So I guess that's okay.
I guess
if you have fans and the air circulating, I don't know.
And hey, true to my past antics, I have spoken about shit I have not a real great understanding of. So hey, I could be wrong, but
And it could also be said the fact that the ownership of comedians at Giggles tend to be more to the conservative side, so that may be factoring into some of their.
Well, why?
Yeah, but you still have to. I mean,
it's a disease, Rick. You can't politicize a disease. It doesn't care what side of the divide you're on.
I mean, you can politicize it to a degree, but you shouldn't. But also, your tent has to meet regulations, or you can't have the tent. That's just the law.
But Eli, you physically cannot politicize this thing, and I can't.
I can figuratively, yeah. I saw somebody on this morning on the Memphis buy sell trade group on Facebook. Somebody posted that they're selling Trump watches, and the comment section is just lighting that guy up.
Oh, good.
Well, he was like selling a picture of him holding the watch was like the watch behind like his ashtray and his pills and his meth.
Oh, meth was on there?
No, not.
Okay.
Not. It wasn't labeled meth.
So we're not gonna have the tent.
Probably not.
We do outdoor shows. And if we do, boy, will I seem like a hypocrite. But as far as I know, no plans for us to have a tent.
So far, no plans.
What's that?
So far, no plans. No.
Eli, I wanted to ask you a question. You grew up in Germantown, Tennessee?
Germantown, Tennessee.
You were born in 94?
1994.
Did you ever meet Phoebe Bridgers, the musician?
No.
Okay. She is a year younger than you and also grew up in Germantown. I saw that on her Wikipedia page yesterday, and I was like, huh, I wonder if Eli knew her.
I didn't talk to a lot of the locals.
Oh, no?
No, I had a very specific friend group.
Okay.
That it did not involve women for a long time.
I see. All right, I just thought I'd ask.
Fair question.
Hey, Rick, I see you've joined Twitter.
Yeah, hey, that was one of my little notes here. I You are the very first retweet I've ever done.
I'm not, but thank you.
Aren't you?
Tweeted?
That's
No,
what it was, huh?
no.
That was a very good joke. Would you like to share it with the class?
Thank you. Oh, Rick, now you're making it seem like I brought up you joining Twitter just so that you could say how great my joke was. And I promise that wasn't the case, but I suppose
It's
if
nice
you
it
insist.
works out that way.
My joke is the new killing baby Hitler scenario is traveling back in time and convincing the draft board that bone spurs are bullshit. Ta-da. But I did
That
want
would
to
work.
talk. You're on Twitter now. And you are not. There is a Rick
little
Jenkins
bit.
on. There is an @Rick Jenkins on Twitter. It's not
Is it?
you, and I know that it's not you because his bio says loves God, loves his wife, and then a Bible verse.
Really? Huh.
Yeah. So someone snagged the @Rick Jenkins handle. Luckily, you are at Rick Jen and then a string of numbers. Was there any reason you chose that
Rick
for
Jen.
your Twitter username?
Yeah, I have no idea. I just it said Twitter and I pressed join and that's what it gave me.
How have you enjoyed your experience so far on the
You
greatest
know I
social
have
media
absolutely
Your
platform?
Twitter
I
birth
have no
name.
facility. I have to sort of like come into work and say, Danny, can you fix this? And you're not coming into work, so there it sits.
Okay, good point. You also have an Instagram profile that you just created that has already been hacked.
Yeah,
You
Yeah.
texted me that your Instagram profile has started tweeting out links to sunglasses, and you've had it for like 5 days.
yeah. We're
Is that not part of our ad campaign? Are we not selling sunglasses?
Right, they protect you from COVID.
We
I
really
had a
should
bio
consider
so you
selling
can come
merch
to our
again.
show.
but that's a possibility. Maybe we get Oakley to Oakley sunglasses to sponsor our Instagram.
Yeah, with our 80 listeners, they're like, oh man, we're going to rake it in.
We've already got pictures of their sunglasses all over the place.
We're doing it. We're living life.
You and you texted me saying, "Should I just delete it?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, delete it." And then you said, "Well, I don't want to delete it. Maybe I just change my username and password." And I said, "Okay,
Yeah.
do that." Have you done
Yeah,
that yet?
You change your password?
I think so.
Oh, good, good.
All right. Well, I can't wait to get more sunglasses.
Your
I
new-
believe I changed the password.
Okay.
That's all you need to.
That's
do.
good.
Okay.
You should consider changing your usernames on both platforms to something a little more easy to find. But I also understand if you'd like to.
Isn't it just Rick Jenkins on Instagram? What's your Instagram handle?
Well, set aside a half hour so we can go through this. You just made some more work for yourself,
I
buddy.
know. Why
I
would
ain't
you-
doing shit.
I don't know. It is your personal accounts. Does that come into play for work?
Oh,
Would I be
oh,
just
don't
helping
know.
you as a favor and off the clock? I don't know.
Which also brings up another thing. I think with your permission, I think I'm going to order a one of those little lights that go on the thing for on your laptop for lighting.
A ring light?
On Saturday.
Okay, yeah, do it. Do you
You know,
need?
those little $100 things that light you for your Zoom conferences?
Okay, you've been unsatisfied with the quality of your lighting thus far?
My lighting is very, very catch can. I literally have two living room
It's
lights
par
on
can. It's
either
pronounced
side
par can,
and a
not catch
chandelier
can.
light,
That's a joke for Eli.
hoping it fills everything in.
Rick's been talking a lot about the ring light.
Okay, yeah, order one. You've got the club card, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah, do it. I would love to see you all lit up all pretty. Let's
Want to show off
see.
the suits.
Eli, last we spoke, you had ditched the Mark Maron book for Facebook as your go-to reading material while you're
As my
doing
one
big
book.
fat shit. Are you still scrolling through Facebook, or have you migrated back to Mark?
Oh no, I am still the same piece of shit that I'm putting in there.
So you read you read the newsfeed, and you somehow internalize it, and then just drop it right into the toilet.
Yeah, it should be a sign that I told you earlier that somebody posted on the Memphis Buy Sell Trade
Oh,
page
right,
on
that should have
Facebook that I have
Now,
not given it up yet.
You're right. Here's a little secret. I don't do any critical thinking on this podcast. I don't think
That-
about what I say. I don't think about anything anyone else says.
I don't think when
I
I'm
just
on here.
go. Because I'm running on pure panic, baby. That's why I nervous giggle at myself so much.
Panic is the best motivator when it comes to comedy podcasts.
It is. I've never heard a podcast where people sound like they're not panicking. And you know why that is?
Why is it?
There are no other podcasts.
Exactly. We have
Is that your
all the
plan
way.
on stage?
Huh?
Do you have a set list when you go on stage? You just plan on the
Oh,
fear
I'm-
sort of kicking in and driving you forward?
I think I'm done going on stage. But yes, that did used to be the guiding principle.
Okay.
I would write a set list, but I'd often forget much of it, and I would just kind of go.
Danny's set list, I remember the last time, was just him telling him when he should order another Narragansett. Order an Narragansett at 8:30. Order a
Yeah.
Narragansett at 9:30.
And then
9:35, 9:36.
That's your set list.
No, it was actually all work and no play makes Danny a dull boy written over and over again.
And I took that to mean, I guess he wants another Narragansett.
Yeah. Now, Eli, I hate to go from such frivolities into something more weighty, but you did bring this energy to the show, to be fair.
I did mention that I was just doing okay.
Eli, so we start the sound check, and I say, Eli, how you doing? He says, I'm okay.
No.
And it's clear that he wasn't doing okay.
The
and
classic
I
not
put
okay, okay.
it was a classic not okay. We saw them all the time in therapy school where I went. So I put my therapy degree to good use, and I said, I'm going to dig in a little bit here. And I said, really? Everything okay? Again? And you let me know that the new Trump initiative to have international students sent back to their own countries in light of the fall semester's online-only class schedule has affected your girlfriend.
Yeah, well, yes, possibly.
That's a shame.
She is
I'm very
international,
sorry
so
for
she
that.
might have to go back to her home country in the fall, which is terrible.
It is terrible.
But
Has anyone contacted her, or is this just what we're reading in the paper?
her school's contacted her, but I
School?
don't know if it's specifically been about her status, just of what the update is.
Yeah.
And have
and
you
her
guys talked
status
about it?
is-
Yeah, we've talked about it. We've both sent out. She found a petition and is sending it out, and I've signed it and donated to it and sent it out too.
And we'll put that link in the show notes
Mhm.
for this
Yeah.
episode. I encourage everyone
I
to
appreciate
take a look
that.
at it and sign it. Oh, you're welcome, Eli. Consider it a personal favor.
Oh, thanks.
Are you guys okay? Do you have a
Uh,
plan? Do you, what are you
Well,
gonna do?
she's getting a work permit to be an EMT in the fall, so that should hopefully be enough to let her stay here. But I don't know about her roommates because all of her roommates are international as well, and they just signed a new lease, so I don't know if that means that they're going to be financially fucked for that lease. So I don't really know. I don't understand why even have this idea for a government.
Well,
Be like,
remember-
oh, we forgot. Oh my God, we totally forgot this big problem of people in the country buying stuff and supporting our economy.
yeah, we're governed by hate and short-sightedness, and
It just makes no sense.
no.
But also, luckily, Boston is a sanctuary city, so ICE's power does not extend too far in here.
Now, I don't want to get ahead of myself. Have you considered marriage?
I would consider it. She is a very nice person.
No,
Are you
could
an
you
ordained
marry
minister?
her?
What?
I mean, could we all get married, the three of us?
Oh, us. This podcast. Is this a
Yeah.
marriage podcast?
Mm-hmm.
Is Shane Mauss an ordained minister? Can he marry the three of us right now?
I sure hope so, Eli.
Yeah, I am. I've done a few weddings. So I guess it really comes down to what is her actual status. Is she has a student visa?
She has a student visa. She
Okay.
is affected by this.
Yeah. Now, Danny, you I know in the past your lovely mate Rosa has been able to help some people get in contact with some immigration lawyers who were able to work things out. Might that be a helpful venue?
We'll certainly look into it. I think she's listening live. She might be a little bit behind.
She is.
She's in the bedroom. But yeah, sure. If she could help in any way.
Yeah,
I'm
I'll
sure she'd love
I'll
to.
take any help. I appreciate that.
Yeah. This is a shame. I'm sorry that this is happening to you both.
Yeah, it's.
I'm more so sorry for her, but I'm also sorry for you.
Thank you. I also feel very bad for her.
Yeah. What a kick in the teeth. What a stupid thing. Just every day
It's just one dumb thing
Stupid
after
shit.
the other.
that just hurts people.
Yeah. How close is she to finishing?
Not close. Not close. She is in the middle. She, I think, is 2 years away, and then medical school.
Well, hopefully Joe Biden will be president and can reverse this order.
Well,
That won't be
hopefully
until
online schools
January.
won't be required soon. Ish.
Yeah, I don't know about
At
that.
some point.
Yeah, because I believe Harvard is like going with half something or other, so that's why I asked if it was Harvard, because I think they're teaching enough classes live.
Well, her
that they can scoot
her
past
school
it.
is also doing the like some in person, some online. So
Mhm.
I think it seems to specify that if a particular student is taking a full online course load,
Mhm.
but since she's doing EMT training and becoming a EMT, that should help her be able
Yeah.
to stay because she's doing in person work with a work permit that also counts as in credit.
Yeah, I think that's the it's warped, but the logic behind it is if you're taking all your classes online anyway, you don't need to be in this country. You can just go back home and take
Yeah,
them
but
there.
there's no just. It's not you can just go back home. That's not exactly an easy thing to
Oh,
do. So
I didn't say it was good logic. I said I think that's the
The
penny under it.
Miller logic.
I guess, but why even have that thought is the question. There's no real logic to logic that somebody took extra time to just make up.
It's because this
Specifically to
administration
hurt
hates
people.
immigrants.
It doesn't
That's
help
why.
the American economy. It hurts the
Yep.
American economy. There's literally no benefit to doing it.
Yep. And I hate to say it, but probably this fall there will be a big need for EMTs
I would imagine so. Yeah.
because of all the shark attacks.
Are there more shark attacks? I've heard
No,
there.
no, it's because of the coronavirus. But hey, I heard a shark was spotted off the coast of Plymouth this weekend.
Hmm.
Oh, Shane Mauss has entered the waiting room for this meeting.
Ooh, spicy.
Oh,
We're gonna let him cook in there for a bit.
No,
Let him really think
let him
about
wait.
what he wants to bring to the table.
let them in at exactly 1:30. The
Exactly.
boy needs structure.
Yes. Boy, I'm sorry, Eli.
That's okay. Thank
I'm
you.
sorry, Lisa.
I'm sure
You guys
she'll
have a
thank
good
you eventually.
4th of July. Speaking of how great America is.
We did. We had a cookout in our backyard. It was nice.
Nice.
It's really nice. We cooked mostly hot dogs, and then we made shrimp skewers.
Shrimp skewers.
Shrimp skewers with vegetables and
Yum.
And Thatch made a delicious marinade for him. It was great.
What about you, Rick?
Sounds pretty good.
What did you do for the 4th?
Yeah, nothing. I'm pretty much reading, writing, and
Arithmetic.
working. The one fun part was I decided to work outside a little bit.
Hmm.
Took the laptop, sat in the park, and found out the park is directly across the street from Ben Dreyer, our business consultant's house.
And
Like,
his
fun,
address will be listed in the comment section below.
Yeah.
Put that in the show notes too. You actually can't get to the petition unless you say his address out loud. And so you got to see Ben?
No, I just
Oh.
just spied.
Oh, okay.
You saw
So you-
him.
So he
They
didn't
were
see
taking
you.
Right, exactly. They were taking groceries out of the car, and I didn't want any part of that shit.
Of helping them.
Yeah, that's,
I'm sure they would have preferred that you didn't.
yeah. I'm like, this is a social distance.
You has this awakened a voyeurism fetish in you now that you've spied on someone without them knowing? Are you wanting to do more of this kind of thing?
Well, now they know. Rick told him yesterday in the meeting.
That's true. But there are so many other people in Somerville.
That's true.
There's
There's a couple that lives in Cambridge near Rick's old house.
Rick
that he could
did used
go
to tell
spy
me-
on.
Rick did used to tell me that he could see inside my windows when he was walking the dog.
Yes.
And look, I'm the kind of guy who likes to spend time in his house naked. I'm sorry, is that crime in front of the windows?
Well, that's a question I've always had. If you're across the street from like a school, and your windows are open and you're naked, that can't possibly be legal.
I don't know how the school is going to arrest all those perverted children for looking into Danny's window for that. That is a harsh
You're
crime.
the creeps,
Exactly.
kids.
What you say? Yeah.
All those
You said
creepy
it.
kids need to go to jail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Juvie
we
at the
know
very
you can't
least.
expose yourself. You know you can't expose yourself on the street.
I know that, yes.
Yes.
But what if there's a window between you?
These are the questions. These are the kind of questions people ask when they decide to send people back to their countries.
These are the times to try
yeah.
men's souls.
Yes, I have a lot of questions like that.
I think probably if I were to like be blatant about it, then it's my fault. But
if
I'm
you're
coming-
waving to the child, I think you can.
yeah,
That's
or to the bystander who's an adult.
Then how do you define blatant? Then it's up to a cop to decide that
Right.
was blatant. You're going to jail.
the well, the
Anytime I
cop sends
bring
you to
anything
jail.
up
It's
with
the
Rick,
judge that
anytime-
sends you to
hang on.
prison.
Anytime I bring up anything as innocent as voyeurism, he manages to turn it weird.
Yeah, nothing like not weird like voyeurism
Yeah,
into something weird
exactly.
like opposite
It's
voyeurism.
it's a common topic, voyeurism, and Rick managed to turn it into some weird philosophical morality fucking riddle.
Takes this weird turn into laws and regulations. It's,
He always does it. It makes me feel so stupid. Well, I had a nice 4th of July. Rosa, a friend of ours, is trying to rent their house. They do not live in Cambridge anymore, but we have the keys to it because Rosa has been like doing
Ooh.
virtual showings of it over Zoom, letting some repair people in. So we had a very nice cookout on their deck. We made these gigantic prawns that we got from a Portuguese marketplace in Fall River. And they were the biggest shrimps I've ever had in my life. And they were very yummy. And then we got, too drunk to drive back home, and we didn't want to walk back home, so we slept at their house.
Sounds about
That was
right.
nice too. And then I watched Rick do his laundry through my binoculars. I also got a COVID test.
And how'd you
oh,
do?
that's right.
Got my coronavirus test. Oh, very easy. In and out. You give your information. You verbally give your information to some people with clipboards. I have to assume they were affiliated with the testing. Otherwise, I just gave my info out to strangers.
And now they're looking into your window right now.
They lead you in. Oh no. They had me blow my nose because they said it works better that way. And then I tilted my head back, and she put the Q-tip up one nostril for 5 seconds, and then she put the Q-tip up the other nostril for 5 seconds, and it was easy breezy. Apparently, it was not the long Q-tip.
How come you didn't get the long Q-tip?
I don't know. It's just that's not what they had.
They looked at you like he can't handle the long Q-tip.
Yeah. This guy's
Let's
got a
just
shot
let's
at
just
it.
swab him up and let him feel better. We'll tell him he's fine.
We'll poke his brain, and he'll probably die.
They had the long Q-tip, but they only did one nostril.
Well then.
Maybe short Q-tip both nostrils.
Guess
Yeah.
it evened out. But Rose and I, we both got tested, and we're both negative. Well, we
Yeah.
tested positively to the negative, as the
You
president.
did well. You did well.
So hey, that feels good. We've been licking doorknobs left and right to celebrate. Spitting in our cat's mouth because she's not sick, and that's how we feed her treats. So yeah, all right. It's 1:30.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let Shane in.
All right.
Excellent.
Rick,
I
You
think
do the
this
talk.
is going very well.
you do the talking. If you've never been here before, this as well. All right. And Rick, you're gonna introduce Shane, okay?
Okay.
Hit it.
There we go.
And ladies and gentlemen, our guest for our podcast this afternoon or evening, depending on when you're listening, has been on the Conan O'Brien show, is a very good friend, has tours the country with his lectures, and is a very smart, intelligent young man that we are going to learn a lot from. Ladies and gentlemen, let's introduce Mr. Shane Mauss.
Hey Shane, how's it going?
Lecture man, teach me something.
I was first of all, I mean, I don't know if you knew that my beard was. I'm looking less and less like a young man. I can't fool people with my baby face anymore.
I think you can.
I have my first beard, and I just turned 40. So
Oh
it's,
my goodness.
I think you can fool Harvard security now. You're a professor. Congratulations.
yeah.
This is your
This
first
is-
beard, the one you're wearing now?
This is I've had stubble in the past, but this is this is my very first beard.
That's
and,
a good debut.
How do you like it?
thanks.
How do you like the beard life?
Thanks. It's good. I have like it depends on like what side of my face I sometimes sleep in. I have to like see which part needs to be matted down through the day. There's a lot of I didn't know one thing I didn't know about I didn't fully appreciate about mustaches is because I've been refusing to trim mine for really no reason whatsoever, but it's rather like if I'm gonna like eat yogurt or something like that, like you would I'd need to I could never do that in front of another human being. Um,
Very
but
solitary act.
it makes mustaches seem so much crazier to me because the idea of shaving off everything but just keeping the one part that gets food stuck in it, that's such a bold move.
That mustache would be a
Catcher.
very bold move to remove everything except the mustache.
Except the grossest part of all of it. So yeah, that's what's new with me, guys. What have you guys been up to?
Well, what about the grooming of the beard? Do you use a comb? Do you use wax? How do you
yeah.
wash it?
Okay, so I got some oils. I've just started messing with some oils. I have a brush. Someone sent me, I think, his dream beard. I was on some guy's podcast that has a beard company. You know what's funny was he was like, yeah, I'm thinking. He's like, I've had this beard company for like 10 years or something, and he had like some deal with Walmart for a while, and like something went south somewhere along the way, and he's like this is like a month or two ago. He's like, yeah, I'm thinking about giving up the beard company. Like, you're giving up on your beard company now? Like, at the most beards in modern human history? That seems foolish. But yeah, a little bit of oil, brush. I have this. Where is this? Hold on.
Yeah.
I got it. I got it right here.
Yeah, I think it's to me it's like fascinating. It's like Gillette lost so much money on people not shaving anymore. It's almost like corporations as a whole said to themselves, "We have to monetize these beards."
Yeah.
People aren't buying razor blades anymore. What how can like the internet? At first it was like, "Oh, everything's free. We can't make any money." And then it's like, we figured it out.
I think we can make
Beards.
money off this thing that every single person wants.
Yeah.
I have this comb thing that my mom got me for my birthday.
Ooh.
My mommy got me this, and it has. So not only is it's a very nice beard comb, but then it has. Look at this. You turn it, and then you have when I do decide to shave my neck. Then you have like
Oh,
a thing
straighten
to shave it to make sure that it's straight.
Yeah.
Very handy.
I think we just
and
got
I
our
really
first sponsor.
should be without see look, if I actually trimmed my beard, I would look like a normal human. But with the neck, it's very like homeless looking kind of a situation. So I'm enjoying that.
How long do you anticipate you're gonna have that beard for before it's time to shave it?
Well,
Quarantine beard?
it's a quarantine beard, and so I don't plan on shaving it until I've gotten to tour around the country. I feel like this beard wants to see the world a little bit. And like I want people to be able to touch it and everything. That means
That's the
there's
most
gonna
important part.
that's gonna be some time from now.
Yeah.
I don't consider myself, even though I have a science podcast. Here we are, where I interview scientists. I don't consider myself a virus expert or an expert on any of this situation just because it's not in my wheelhouse. But I'm personally planning right now fall 2021 for a tour, knowing that if things get better sooner, I can pick up club dates and stuff. But the way that I tour now, I produce my own shows, and I'm doing stringing together 3 cities a week or so, driving from each city. They're like, usually 3-4 hours apart. And the logistics of putting that together in a world where like every state, every city is fluctuating in terms of what their laws are and who's open where and when and what is peaking, and like to put something like that together, I'm not even thinking about it until fall of 2021, even though I think a year is reasonable enough, but also summer's such a bad time for comedy anyway, so it's like, why bother? And I'm making with my science stuff, I'm also going to be making a push to hopefully doing more college stuff. So that's another reason for fall of 2021, which means it'll take me at least until early 2020 for enough people to have gotten to see this beard live. So we're or fall of 2022 rather. So we're looking at having this beard into fall, into at least like spring of 2022.
So it's a bit of a
So
long haul.
I don't know. I feel like it's gonna be like down chest maybe.
Yeah, just
By
think
that
of it
time?
as kind of like a persona thing. Like you said, because you started
I-
off with like
The new
Now I
Shane.
look like the older guy. Is it sort of like I want to go out on tour as the older guy?
No,
beard guy?
but
The
it's
older guy
turned to be
tour.
The older guy tour.
There's not enough of them in comedy.
Yeah, definitely not enough older guys. At first, I was doing a web series where the premise was that I was like stuck quarantined in a stranger's house. And so, like, it was kind of like for a role. Like, the more of a beard that I had, the better it kind of made things. And I was doing a couple other things like that where I'm like, well, maybe if I'm doing like quarantine videos and stuff, it'll help to have a beard. And that not knowing that I could actually grow a beard like this, and now I'm like, I don't know. I think I can see a lot of I have a lot of ideas for for future shows that I think the beard look will help a little bit.
Yeah, Merlin.
New season.
See, to me, it looks like really disheveled and a bit of like homelessness to it. But other people tell me that that there's some people think it's like beards make people look like wiser or something. Other people, I'm not sure that I see that.
It depends on what
Oh.
accessories you put with it. Like, it depends on the rest of your wardrobe. If you put a bandana on, little less.
Yeah,
Super dignified.
Goes a
It's
certain
good
way.
beard, Shane. It's a good beard. As he combs it.
Or tweed jacket with
Are
elbow
you
patches.
are you quarantining? Where are you quarantining? Are you?
I'm
where are you
actually in my parents' basement, which might be part of why I'm feeling homeless because I technically am. So in April of 2019, I so in 2016 I did my first indie tour where I put all my stuff in storage and spent 9 months on the road. It was like the best 9 months of my entire career. I loved it so much, and since that time, I had been trying to figure out how can I do that for a while, for as long as I want to, for a year, 2 years, 5 years, how until I'm sick of it. And so I put together a show that allowed me the flexibility and opportunity to do that. So in April 2019, I put all my stuff in storage, and I was traveling. I was in about 3 cities a week. And then when the quarantine stuff happened, all of my gigs were canceled until mid-April in Michigan was like at the time when they were like
2 weeks.
when they were like yeah, and so
Yeah.
so I was like, well, if it's going to be at least that long, I'll go back to my parents' house in Wisconsin. I haven't gotten to see them for a long time. And then I got here and then talked with a couple infectious disease people on my podcast. And I was like, oh, I'm going to be here for a long time. And I'm really enjoying it. But it's also weird to be 40 and in your parents' basement. It's nice to be spending adult quality time with my parents. Weird to be 40 in your parents' basement.
I will
And
say it's
also, very
probably
convenient that-
Go
no,
ahead, Eli.
it's probably relaxing that it's not your fault.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean,
It's
yeah.
a freebie.
Yeah.
It-
Well, and
it's-
it also works out very well that you have all your stuff in storage and you're on. It's almost like it was planned.
yeah, I mean, all of this ultimately has been, other than the financial side of things, has been pretty great personally, but without all of my existential worries of the world as a whole and fearing for humanity generally. in terms of my business and what I do, um, it's not like things have like blown up for me or anything. I'm still figuring out how to get traction on the many projects that I've
Yeah.
started for myself. But the things that I've been doing are things that I've discovered that I really like and want to be a regular part of my life and career well beyond the pandemic. And so from that aspect of it, it's been a real blessing. Doing remote podcasts,
The
doing like
best.
fun sketch stuff and whatnot for the first time, learning a bunch of new things about marketing, learning to like put on my big boy like managerial costume and like do some better, more attentive bookkeeping, and having to like looking back, I was like, oh yeah, it was kind of being pretty willy-nilly with money and like spoiling myself with like unnecessarily expensive Airbnbs and dining and stuff like that on the road. And now seeing just how far I can make a few dollars stretch, it has been a good reminder for me. And I've been on the road for like 14 years. I started in Boston, and I got in 2004, and 2007 rolled around, and I already started working headlining the road full time, and it was becoming more and more increasingly busy until I moved from Boston around 2009, and I've just been go 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 traveling ever since that time. So, and it didn't even occur to me that that might be like another thing that I've just trapped myself in, is being stuck on the road without any end in sight too. So this has given me a lot of time to step back. And what a weird experience all of this is. I don't know why people are trying to do normal things during this quarantine when all the quarantine stuff is so weird and fascinating.
What do you mean by normal?
Well, I mean, even just that people are like trying so hard to make like dining out or live entertainment like happen, like bending over backwards. Like, I get it if you're a club owner or if you're a comedian or you're an entertainer or something like that. Sure, there's all sorts of incentive to try to make but as a customer, I just don't. Especially with summertime, it's like, why not teach yourself grilling better or develop a new hobby or all of the other things like to me, like an example is sports. I'm not a big sports fan, but the idea of having sports without an audience, people like sports fans poo-pooing that idea, to me is like, why? That's historic. We'll remember that for the rest of our lives. There will be footage of this for centuries to come of like these popular sports with zero audience in them because of this very, very strange time. And to me, that's like such a weird, trippy, interesting thing to get to experience. Why not embrace that for the experience for what it is? And we'll have all the rest of our lifetime to do the same monotonous crap that our regular lives include.
Do you feel the same way about like Zoom shows and stuff with comedy? It's like, all of a sudden we have a chance to do comedy without an audience.
Yeah, I do. And I was really judgmental about Zoom shows early on. This is why. Because I can be, as Rick knew me in my early days, I can be a little bit of like, I'd actually dropped all this through the years until the quarantine came around. And I think just because I felt my career threatened, it made my old tendencies bubble up again, which I can be like real comedy policey and judgmental about things. And my big concern early on with Zoom comedy was that so many people have never even seen a live stand-up comedy show to start with. For them to see their first experience of live stand-up to be like someone sitting in their broom closet and like not the contagious laughter around them and everything, since that time, people have innovated and figured out ways around that, and having like an audience zooming in and responding and being able to hear their laughter and that influencing the timing. But, as a club owner, like, say you have a half full room and you just let anyone sit wherever they want, they're going to naturally spread themselves out all over the room. They're not going to
Yeah.
naturally be like, hey, let's all collect together because
Yeah.
laughter is contagious. And
Yeah.
and then if they are spread out all over the room and the comedian doesn't do well, it's not someone's first thought to be like, well, I bet I would have enjoyed that show more had we been packed in closer. Their first thought is probably going to be, oh, I guess I didn't like that comedian, or
Yeah.
I don't like live stand up as much as I thought that I would. And so
Yeah.
because there's all of these subconscious things that there's no way you can expect your average audience member to understand, my concern was that it would potentially burn potential future customers
Mhm.
if they didn't like the virtual experience of a comedy show, if a comedian can't turn out new material each time. I
Yeah.
can go around and tour with a fantastic 45-minute set in 100 different cities, and then
Yeah.
do it again for another year or two if I want to, really. but
Yeah.
but you can't create material that fast to like build the same audience. A lot of audiences don't know that, like, it takes comedians a really long time to hone solid material like that. Those were all of my concerns early on. Now, this many months into it, I'm like, I think I was just kind of being a jerk. And like, who cares if people are taking chances and trying to innovate and do creative things? I'm not interested in doing it still, probably because I don't want to, probably because I spent 2 months criticizing the idea and don't want to
Yeah.
go back on
Too
it.
late to
But
go back now.
maybe, and maybe I'm being biased, or maybe I'm being accurate. I don't know. I can't tell.
Yeah.
It opens people up to more. It allows more people to see live comedy.
There's
People
there's
couldn't make it
new.
out to the clubs.
Yeah, I wonder that. I wonder how many people are sampling comedy for the first time. People who wouldn't go to a club to
Mhm.
see stand up are like, well, I'll look for a couple minutes.
Absolutely.
That is
And there's
interesting.
certainly, I mean, Maria Bamford was doing like
Oh.
specials in front of her mirror or to her parents in her living room or whatever before any of this. There's that that's the thing is, I guess my biggest problem with anything anyone's doing, whether it's podcasting or live shows, is that I think that anyone that's taking an approach of like, I'm going to do a stopgap kind of, I'm going to do something to hold me over until we get through this, is a worse approach than I'm going to find things to experiment with that will potentially add to what I do as a comedian even after this is over. That's the things that I think that people should be doing. So even in turn, because if you look at like um jo- what's his name, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, or
Yeah.
Hit record Joe.
he was doing that hit record thing in crowdsourcing remote content long before people were doing remote things. And it's high, granted, he's a wealthy celebrity who has the resources to pull off those things, but certainly it's possible to work within the constraints of the environment that we're given to. Or if you look at like John Doerr's appearance on Conan, where he was, I don't know if anyone saw that, but he's in his car with and like his daughter's in the back interrupting, and he's like yelling at his daughter and stuff, and that's like his Conan set. Like stuff like that, I think is like so cool and so special, and like the gold standard of what we should be striving for. Not everyone's going to be John Doerr, not everyone's going to be Maria Bamford, and we can't expect that from anybody. But that's the other scary thing, is usually open mics were in little bars and it was just a couple other comics seeing super cringy open mic shows.
Yeah.
But now you can
And
stream
now
it.
We're like, we're gonna put this out there forever.
Yeah. Well, and I think it also it sort of tears away that veil that we are really a lot like vaudeville was, where people are just taking their set act and going out and doing it in front of a different audience.
Yeah.
And yeah, the way I'm looking at this is, okay, we can't do what we do anymore, or for now, anyways. The government's giving us enough money to learn something new, and
Yeah.
then when we come back to it, maybe we'll have some skills we wouldn't have had otherwise.
I bet that, I mean, just from a personal level, by the end of this, just simple things like I'm in the middle of overhauling my website. I'll have a better both personal and podcast website when all of this is said and done. I already have a larger social media following because I didn't really use social media before any of this. And I've learned things about using social media. I've used I'm like exploring more of my connections with scientists to do more stuff. I don't know. There's just so many things that I've added. Whereas so many people early on were like, well, I got to do something to make a couple bucks to get by for now. And I'm like, well, ultimately, if you're at the most gonna make $50 for virtual show that isn't going to, then make sure that you're doing it for fun and for like growing an audience and for the right reasons, and not because that 25 extra bucks is gonna make a big difference in your life.
Well, yeah, the other thing you learned from this is how to stretch a dollar. So now when you go back in, you're not going to have that pressure of, holy shit, I need to make $1,000 for the show because things are tight. Now now you can budget and go like, hey, you know what? I don't want to do that show. I'll take the one for 500 instead.
Yeah. I mean, this is this is an incredible and weird time.
And the whole world is, well, not anymore, but the whole world was doing it. It's just all of a sudden everyone was put on pause, and we all had a chance to take a look at ourselves and start seeing what's really important.
I think this is definitely the time to make the most out of it and learn new skills. At least I hope a lot of people are doing that. Like I'm trying to learn video editing, learn more social media stuff because I'm not very good with that at all. But learning, I've bought more tools. I'm going to order some stuff from Home Depot and actually try doing some home construction projects again. I haven't done that in a long time.
I haven't done anything like that. That's the one thing in my life that I haven't done any like hobby type stuff. I've gotten back into yoga and doing exercise more again, which is really hard to do when you're on the road. So that's been good. But yeah, career stuff. I've been trying to write sketch stuff and do like some comedic acting stuff that I've never done before. And before now, if say I did have a show idea, which I do, but if I go into pitch, I'm someone who's never like had a show before. Before now, there wasn't really anything of me being in front of a camera and seeing how I like carry myself in front of a camera. And now, even though it's like this web series Quarantine Couple that I made that no one's watched, I'm at least like, it's pretty good and I'm pretty good at acting in it. And it's at least something that I can show someone and be like, hey, see, I can handle myself in front of a camera. There's just like I don't know, there's just a zillion things like that. And this is just, this is, I don't know. I've always really liked liminal spaces and uncertainty and it like the liminal space, the space of change, like the transition between two points, like the shore and the water, or any transitions in life where there's just like a lot of uncertainty, and I find those areas exciting, and it's part of what I like about like I always wanted to like travel more internationally, and I really want to go and like travel around China and see all these places I haven't seen. And this is like the craziest staycation ever because you can be where you've spent so much time already, and now your home is a whole new world, because even though you look outside and it looks the same, the environment, the culture, the world that you find yourself in is a completely different world, and that's just
It was all in your backyard.
it
Well,
was
it's
You're in-
all in your-
funny. It is
You're in
funny to think.
Wisconsin.
Yeah, I'm in
How-
Wisconsin.
How's Wisconsin handling the reopening from the coronavirus?
I think good. I think that people are, I think our numbers are pretty good. And I think that people are starting to wear masks again
Mm.
since it started spiking in other places. And so, yeah, I mean, I don't know enough of, like, I had an infectious disease person on my podcast recently who spent her career studying STIs, treats people with HIV like almost every day, and took a break from that to go and work on the front lines during the Ebola outbreak. And she's more worried about getting COVID-19 than she is HIV or Ebola, simply because of how contagious it is. And so but that's not to say that we still don't know, like, exactly how deadly it is, or anything else. And so my concern is this is one of the interesting things about all. I mean, I have a science podcast where mostly I study the evolution of our minds, and how our perceptions evolved, which is like why we have the inability to detect asymptomatic uh, um,
Carriers.
viruses and carriers. Which, if someone was hacking up a lung in front of you, everyone would naturally distance, and everyone would naturally want them to cover their mouth, and everyone would that that would be a natural inclination to have. And because of modern medicine, no virus that does that is going to have much of a chance to take off in a population. And so viruses have to be sneakier, but then we don't have this natural evolved kind of intuition to understand that, and that's fascinating to me. So people's like uh, cognitive biases are one of my favorite subjects in the world. So getting to see people react to this in all these ways is just the most incredible experience. Like, for example, someone will be like, I was just hanging out, and my aunt said something over the 4th of July. We did a distance thing, and she was like, they shut everything down for this virus, and it turned out to be nothing. And there seems to be a lot of this going around of, like, people not understanding what a quarantine is for. The goal of a quarantine is for nothing to happen.
Yeah.
That's not what we got, because
Good
we didn't do
quarantine.
it fully.
Mm-hmm.
If we would have done it right, nothing would have happened. But now, because actually, and then people are like, it wasn't as bad as people thought it would be. Well, scientists projected that we'd have double the number of deaths by May, and that's because they estimated that 50% of people would actually follow guidelines. More like 75% of people followed guidelines early on until about May, when things started getting restless. And that's why the number of deaths was lower. And so, but then that gave people this unfounded confidence that this wasn't a big deal, and now we're seeing things spike again. And so I don't know, it's all pretty fascinating to me.
Somebody called me a sheep for saying I wear masks, and I felt bad.
I don't really get the anti-mask thing. I wish back when I did factory work, or growing up when I worked in my dad's shop and wore a dust mask, there would have been these internet sleuths around that had done all this research about CO2 and all
5G.
breathing your own air and everything. So I'm lucky to be alive. I don't know what it's all the conspiracies. My podcast, I've been interviewing scientists for 6 years, usually about things like talking about like elephants or how flight evolved or like certain mating patterns in dung beetles or something like that. And no one was ever like, these scientists are full of shit. This is a conspiracy. It's when something directly impacts their convenience. So like a pandemic's very inconvenient. Vaccines are inconvenient and it's scary. You're getting stabbed with a needle. And then and global warming is very inconvenient. So the conspiracies are all about those things. The conspiracies aren't so much about like the aerodynamics of making a flight take off and not and not take off,
Not a lot of numbers involved with conspiracies.
What's that?
There's not a lot of numbers involved with conspiracies. It's more
Yeah,
theory.
so it's
just really disappointing that that we seem to be unique in handling it so badly.
yeah.
It's inconvenient for everyone. It's just we're taking it personally.
Yeah. It's yeah. Well, I mean, maybe this will be a wake up call for America, but I don't know.
No,
I go
it
back
would have
and
been
forth.
already.
That wake up call is a conspiracy.
Yeah. I don't know. It
It's all
seems
5G, Shane. You know that, right? It's just a way to get 5G into our bloodstream. They sew it into the masks.
It seems like an awful lot of work to do that. Yeah, I mean, I've been hopeful many times that like, hey, this will be a wake up call from an environmental perspective, or hey, maybe now people will realize like how ridiculous our political system is, or how much misinformation, and it's none of that's panned out the way that I was hoping that it would. I'm concerned that none of this civil uprising stuff is going to pan out the way that we're hoping. I don't know that like this is like I watch TV and see like a civil uprising, I'm like, yes, finally. But I don't know if that means that a few months from now, Donald Trump's going to get reelected, and it's going to be more or worse of the same problems that the uprisings are trying to correct. So I have no idea.
Unfortunately, it's still very unclear what's going to happen.
I've kind of given up on making predictions, other than for myself, I don't plan on touring until 2021.
You had an interesting tweet, which was you had a cool idea I hadn't seen before, which is that for people who are jonesing to go see live shows, put double the money they would spend on a ticket into a rainy day fund. And then once everything opens again, you have this huge, or not huge, but you have a substantial live entertainment fund that you can use to go see more shows than you would have normally. That's a cool idea, Shane.
Well, what made me think of it is one of the things that's been a little bit silly / frustrating for me, and I don't know if it's been the same for you guys, or especially you, Rick, but I would think, it certainly is from my perspective as a comedian and also someone who's produced his own shows, it's pulling teeth to get people out from in front of their couch to go and see live entertainment. And now all of the sudden, when people need to go and like hunker down in front of Netflix for a little while, for us, there's just like this rebellion of like, no, now I need to see live comedy and music for the. Like, half the people saying this haven't seen live entertainment.
I want to go experience an open mic for the first time in my life, and now I can't.
If this virus was just the opposite, and what people needed to do was to collect and be around, like bats, the reason why bats are able to carry this virus and not have it impact them is because they stay together in groups, and the heat from that manages the virus, so it doesn't. But so if there was a virus where what we needed to do was like all stay together and like be in groups as much as possible, and like be partying and watching as much entertainment, live entertainment as possible all the time, just as many people would be like, I need my alone time. This is interfering with my freedoms.
Yeah, the cure was cuddling all along. Well, when this started, you did hear a lot. I think almost everybody said, "Oh, I've been built for this. I'm all set." Lay on the couch. I can do this, and then a week later, it's like,
I don't want to see another Xbox ever again.
I'm still hunkering quite well. This is probably part of why I'm been somewhat overly judgmental, is because I'm an introvert, and two, I love science. And so like this is a particularly like fascinating time for me. And this is uh like I do feel like I'm pretty well equipped. It's not that I never experienced loneliness, but loneliness doesn't impact me the way that it seems to most people. Like depression does impact me more than a lot of people. Loneliness doesn't. And so for someone who is deeply impacted by that, for someone who is a natural extrovert, it is easy for me to say like, just hunker down for a little while longer.
Yeah.
And part of the problem's been with the messaging of all of this too is I think that this is a really great time for cognitively reframing our experiences, because um, because if you can reframe this as an opportunity to learn new skills and blah blah blah, you're going to look back at this as this great time that you got to invest in writing that novel that you always wanted to, even if it was garbage and it never went anywhere. That's still time well worth. At least you took the chance on it. But the big problem with the messaging was that, uh, and now this is what I do. This is kind of the stuff that's in my wheelhouse. Is how we kind of perceive things and our the how we kind of perceive psychological wellness, and we the things that we value. It's something that I spend a lot of time talking with psychologists about. And if you tell people early on that there's going to be like 2 or 3 weeks we're going to hunker down, and then you extend it, that's immediately a loss. Every single time that you extend it, that's a psychological loss. That's more time you don't get to go back to normal. Had they early on been like, this is a pandemic, we're shutting things down, it could be a year and a half before there's a vaccine, so we need to quarantine, and then slowly we'll start letting things like reopen as the numbers are down, and different areas will be able to open in different ways, but it's going to take some time to figure this out. And then we'll expand what's considered an essential worker, and then we'll open up some service industries for those essential workers, and then we'll expand on that and expand on that. Every time that you expand that, that would be an incremental gain. That would feel like you are getting a new freedom back. And instead, every single time we're extending this, it's just this feeling of loss and hopelessness and fear and anxiety and uncertainty all over again. And
that's why you talk about basic leadership. Is that's the problem? Is we haven't had an overarching, individual governors have been handling it well and not well and all that stuff. But there should have been a national. Hey, here's what we need to do, and here's what it's going to take.
If you ask me, and I don't even think that scientists would necessarily agree with my take on this. I don't talk on behalf of science. I'm just an enthusiast that likes talking to scientists and usually finds out how wrong he is about everything every single week. But so a little caveat there. But I do think that if there would have been something that's like when like we use the criteria of how many hospital beds and how well equipped each hospital in each area is to handle an influx of new cases. That's how we determine how open a given area can be, and it's this nationwide standard that we're going to adopt. Instead, is when we're deciding how open is my area going to be, the answer is, well, is your governor red or blue?
Yeah.
Because it's either no one ever go outside ever again for the rest of their lives, or let's do spring break, Mardi Gras.
Everyone kisses.
Yeah, it's a real black and white, like either win or lose in your state right now. It's either you're winning and you get to go outside, or you're losing, so stay inside.
Well, we're
There's
in a blue
no-
state, and things are starting to open up here.
We're winning.
Although we do have a red governor.
That's true. We do. Damn. Fuck.
I mean, this is you know, it's everyone's first pandemic, and there's
We'll get better
only
at this.
yeah, we'll get better. There's only so much you can expect. I've certainly made a whole hell of a lot of mistakes through all of this, and I would have loved to have patted myself on the back as someone that would have like been maybe better or more informed about how to manage this than your average bear. And I haven't been right about very many predictions along the way. I have been wrong over and over again. I have been hot-headed and made mistakes and lost money and invested my time and energy in projects that didn't go anywhere and everything else. And I can only imagine a whole lot of other people are doing the same and getting frustrated and are scared and everything else. So I don't know how much you can really expect from people.
Greatness. That's what I expect. Some comedy is back. The LOL Comedy Club in San Antonio hosted comedians Brendan Schaub and Brian Callen.
Oh, you must
And
have
it
saw
went
me
great.
tweet about that.
I saw you tweet about it, and I saw it in the news.
Oh my gosh, that I mean, it's just
A new hot zone.
I
You've played
hate.
that club, haven't you?
I have, yes, and
I mean, they don't seem
Did
like
you
they,
get
know,
sick
like-
when you played there, or was this maybe a
idiots.
new?
oh, this is a new development.
I'm
You
just
know,
trying to figure out what the.
I wish.
I'm wondering the rationale behind the club. I mean, you played there. It doesn't seem like they're idiots or you know.
No,
that they- you know
I
they put
like
people at risk, but
I like
they
that
did.
club.
yeah.
I don't know if they. I don't know if it was a distance show to start with, but even if it was, if they did a meet and greet afterwards, it negates the very
Yeah.
idea of.
Yeah.
Well, then why were we distancing in the first place?
Yeah.
I mean, at least the argument could be made that a meet and greet is at least voluntary, and then those who want to risk the idea, not understanding that they're risking the lives of other people that they come in contact with as well, but you can only expect so much from people. But at least then only those people are taking a risk. But it just seems like, and then there's, I mean, it.
Yeah.
There's so much going on there, because then there's social pressure to do it when you see other people doing it, and you're just encouraging that, you're taking pictures. I mean, imagine doing this. You're like a COVID denier, basically. I mean, they've been saying like how ridiculous masks are, and now you got a picture with yourself like thumbs upping a camera that everyone gets to be like, hey, this is the moment
Yep.
when this meathead
Yep.
got COVID.
Or passed
Like,
it to someone else. Who knows
and
if he had
passed
it
it-
before that?
Well, that's those same
I know
people.
of 4 people who were in that showroom, and
Okay.
100% of them have COVID and
Oh, God.
19 now. I don't know if the staff or anyone else. It's just a bad look for everybody,
Mhm.
you know. And like the DL Hughley thing was just like
Yeah, that was bad.
a bad look too. And
Yep.
and I don't. We should look at statistics rather than you know, just these anecdotal stories. But anecdotal stories are unfortunately what drive public perception. And if that influences public perception, that means that it's going to be that much longer that intelligent audiences will come out to see live stand up.
Yeah.
Even when there's a vaccine and things are clear and good to go, it's going to be that much longer before people. Whoops, sorry.
Oh, the government heard you.
It's going to be that much longer.
That's the comedy club calling you.
In my estimation of things, it's going to be that much longer before people will feel inclined to go out. So I feel like it rather selfishly hurts all of us, and at least I understand it when comedians that are broke and desperate are doing it. But when someone's like those two guys, I bet they would have made more money staying where they were and just releasing like a bonus podcast or something, rather than doing a split bill in San Antonio and bringing an entourage with them. I mean, that seemed like just an ego thing to me, and so I don't.
It's the addicted and the middle acts that I worry about.
Yeah, I mean, I think that what I've been telling people is if they're going to do a distanced thing, is use your model, Rick, of having local people doing showcases. The last thing that you want to do, and I get that clubs want to put like a well-known name and credits and everything out there, but the last thing that you want to do is fly in a biological vector who flies from metro hotspot to metro hotspot, meeting and greeting people. That's why we have this thing in the first place, is because it flew here. Like,
damn
you
planes.
don't want to be flying people in and out.
Yeah.
And so that's frustrating. And I don't, because the most frustrating thing to me is I don't see any reason why on paper you couldn't possibly do a distance club. I asked an infectious disease person about like, what if I wanted to do an outdoor thing, everyone's 6 feet apart? And in theory, there's no reason not to do that. If people are like wearing masks, everything else, it's just that the criteria to make that, and that's assuming everyone actually does it.
Yeah.
The criteria to do that is also a list of everything you could do wrong to put on a comedy show under normal circumstances.
Everybody get as
We're
far
gonna
apart.
spread everyone out. We're gonna have it outdoors in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
In the heat, because heat and humidity will help it. Like the droplets don't go as far. UV helps a little bit. Clearly not enough if the hot spots are Florida, Arizona, and Texas in the middle of summer right now. Though that might be because of people going inside and air conditioning more. So I don't know. I haven't talked with anyone about that. But regardless, it's just like all of the, and you want people, because you're standing on a stage and projecting louder than the average person, your droplets are, so you also want to keep those front rows clear. You probably want like 10 feet from the stage. It's just like, if this wasn't, if you listed everything and then went back in time and told someone that had no idea that a pandemic was coming, you're like, I have an idea for a comedy show. Here's what we're going to do. Anyone would be like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Why do you need all these
that's
sanitizer
never going
wipes?
to work.
Yeah.
I will say the opposite point would be that I think that it's sellable as a very novel and interesting thing to do. I think that Dave Chappelle's thing was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I think that like someone like myself, who mostly would prefer to just be up there blabbing about science and tell a joke and like get a laugh once every 3 minutes rather than 5 times a minute, like was, my normal, like when I started and wanted to have like the late night style, like that, like a late night type of delivery requires more of that like collective energy for the timing to work, whereas like a chill, like funny storytelling kind of thing could adapt and work well, I think, in a distance. A live podcast could work really well in a distanced space.
Yeah. This podcast live would be so safe. No one's laughing. No droplets in the air.
And no one's showing up.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
Empty
perfect.
club, and we've never felt safer.
Ticketed podcast.
It's what
TED
we've been
Talks.
preparing for.
Yeah, this
I-
podcast is the goal is for it to be TED Talks. Yes,
I
We've
mean,
not
the
hit
funny,
that yet.
the funny thing with me is like, I have to say that I might be biased because one, I'm catering to a science audience, so I'm really the last person that can go out and perform again. Otherwise, I'm a hypocrite. And then, I mean, forgetting financial and ethical issues, um, but I'm already having to plan for what do I say to get my audience out again, because they are, I imagine, early on, the type of audience that's going to be big into science is probably going to be a little even overly nervous
Yeah.
when things actually are appropriate to start fully opening up again. And so that's something that I'm already thinking about and planning for, a year from now. But I bet we're all going to have to do that. It seems to me like the stuff that's going to work really well right now is not the most comedy savvy acts in the entire world, because you need to imagine the type of people that are risking their lives to go and hear some dick jokes maybe aren't the brightest.
Yeah. We're gonna be getting more Bill Burr in Philadelphia tapes.
Yeah. I think there's going to be a bit more of that. But, I mean, D.L. Hughley's a very bright guy who draws like a pretty savvy audience. I was actually rather surprised to see that. But, everyone has a different take on all. I keep on going back to like, wow, this is just so fucking fascinating. I want no part of live comedy, but to sit back and like put my anthropologist hat on and know that like, well, ultimately there's only so much I can say to prevent anyone from making their bad decisions. I'll just sit back and watch and see how it goes. It is a really fascinating thing to see.
Yeah.
Oh, were you done, Rick?
It's time to sit back and
No, I
watch
was just gonna say,
some
yeah.
humans.
It's just, I also have that, that little whiny kid inside me that, as we go through all of this, it's like, yeah, it's fascinating, and I want to make sure everyone's safe. But there's that little thing in the back of my head that says, I don't have parents to move in with.
Yeah.
This if this this business doesn't become viable, I literally don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm personally okay because I have, a roof over my head and food, and I don't have to worry about that. I do have a team of employees that I had hired that are not in that position. That I have my assistant whose 100% of her income was directly related to me, and one other
How's she doing?
person who a big, well, she's getting aid now, and so and so she's okay. But
For now.
for now, all the government assistance and everything else, I mean, everything's very uncertain right now.
Yeah.
This is absolutely a scary situation for everybody, and I get the motivation of people wanting to like open up and get the economy going again. The question is, does it hurt or help the economy to do so? If we do it too early, if too many lives are lost, if hospitals do end up having all sorts of problems, if that I have no idea.
We're literally balancing money against lives.
And there's other health concerns. There's mental health. There's people not going in to the ER when they're having cardiac issues.
Yeah, they say HIV is exploding.
Really?
Is it?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
interesting. I would have thought people would be having less sex right now.
Well, it's that. Well, also you have transfusions, so it's that because no one's going in saying, "Hey, I feel a little off. Let me get tested for stuff." No one's getting tested for anything other than COVID. You can't go to the doctor and just say, "Hey,
Yeah, the
what's
preventative
this
care
long?
stuff, that's so very important for everybody right now. So, I mean, you're also measuring that. We need to know, if you get COVID, can you get it again? And what is
Yeah.
the long term impact? If you get it, is it possible that you have issues for the rest of your life? Much in the same way that someone that is susceptible is people that have had like pneumonia or things like that in the past, because some of those things do have long-term implications. Those are the two big things that seem to be the most unknown from the people that I've talked to, and those would be the two biggest questions to ask. Because if it's the case that even though some people don't get antibodies, but somehow there's still an immunity, which seems counterintuitive, but might be the case. That's the scariest thing, is people are getting COVID and not getting antibodies, which with most any other illness would be what prevents you from getting the thing again. But there might be some T cells there, some other, again, I don't know enough about this stuff. And what is the long-term implication? Is it an anomaly to have a 41-year-old in shape theater actor have like months and months and months of complications and then die at the end of it? That's one scary
After losing a leg.
After losing a leg. Is that just one scary little story, and the statistics of that really, that's not like the reality of most of the situation? I don't know enough. And if it is, then then potentially we all go like, yep, okay, I guess we're gonna go the herd immunity route, and we're just all going to get this thing and take the hits. If we do that, it'll be it's already going to be, no matter what we do, I would bet money that COVID's going to kill more people than accidents in a year, which is I think the third largest killer. That's crazy. More than accidents. And then
Any accident?
Yeah, any accident.
Wow.
And then that puts you into the next huge numbers is cancer and heart disease.
Oh, shit.
But once you're talking about cancer and heart disease, you're just talking about old age and dying of natural causes at that point. So if COVID beats those, that means it's outdoing death by natural causes, which is that's putting up some huge number, because I think heart disease
It's on
is
the
the
board.
biggest around like just over 500,000 a year. So that's I I don't know. I go back and forth. I'm not worried about getting the thing that much myself. So I mean, I get that other people aren't that worried about it, but I'm very worried about getting it, passing it on to people, passing it on to my older parents that I live with, passing it on to any people that I don't know. I also care about potentially infecting strangers that may not be as healthy as I am. So,
Have you been able to get tested?
yeah, I went crazy in June and ended up in a psych ward for a week.
Oh, wow.
I'm bipolar, and so I have manic episodes once in a while. And I had one. I had like the perfect storm of everything. I was hypomanic through almost all of quarantine, and then I bumped up into full blown mania, which that's when it becomes like an actual issue.
Okay.
So anyway, so I was hospitalized, and I had the test when I went. Everyone got tested, so they could put people in the psych ward with one another. And yeah, it's not a pleasant test either. I'll tell you, like all of those, it's really nothing to be scared of in terms of your own. It's better to get it and know and be safe. But looked at another way in terms of like all those people that went to the LOL comedy club, that instead of getting emails for free tickets for like, it's your birthday, they're getting now it's like, sign up for our email list and comment cards so that when we know a virus came through here, we can email you to let you know if you need to get tested. Now those people got to go and get some Q-tip stuck halfway up their brain, just because they wanted to see one decent comic and one awful comic. Like that seems like, I mean, it's a way to make your comedy show memorable.
Comes with a free test.
Yeah, it keeps. Oh well, if it was a free test, that would be a selling point. Unfortunately,
Each
I
ticket comes with
imagine
a
a
Q-tip.
lot of people got some pretty big medical bills because they went to that comedy show. And that's not to give those guys too much of a hard time. I'm the fucking asshole that used to pick on jocks and stuff. And you know, like my most famous um bit on Spotify or anything is about like macho guys and their trucks. I've been like making fun of macho men for uh my career and life, and so like I'm biased, and my inclination is to probably unfairly mock those guys that, you know, are just making a lot of the same errors everybody else is. But also, macho comics are sure having their moment right now. And I also feel I feel like I can mock them if I want to, just like we all got to mock the rednecks of comedy when they were having their moment.
Mhm.
And so I may be being a little hard on the guys that went to the LOL, but it's frustrating to see a science denier who then gets and infects a bunch of people. So anyway,
Tale as old as time. And now you've got your big macho beard. Maybe you can join the new crew of chill science leaning macho comics.
yeah, that's the thing. Is it's harder to call me a virtue signaling cuck now that I have this Vikings beard.
Bring machoism back to science.
And I can explain cuckolding and virtue
Yes.
signaling to them much better than they understand.
Mm-hmm. We're coming up on the end of the show. We like to.
This has been fun.
Thank you. It
Thank
has
you for
been
coming.
fun.
It's been awesome.
We like to go around the horn and everyone give a comedy recommendation, something they've enjoyed in the realm of comedy this past week or any time for you, Shane, since you've never been on the podcast. Rick, why don't you kick us off?
Okay. Let me get to my note here. So we're doing both.
Yeah,
There's,
so we're doing a comedy recommendation and also a local business recommendation that you'd like to help out with your words.
Yeah. My business recommendation is, again, so many people are making really cool, nice masks, and since we should be wearing them, you should have more than one. Blue Frog Collective is handling some of them, and that's put together by some local comics. So bluefrogcollective.com, and you can get some really cool masks with many, many different designs and space for the filters, and they're all really well done. The comedy recommendation, I've got a whole bunch, but the one I'm going to go with is Carl Yard. He's a comic, I think even before Shane's time, started out with us. And once a week on Saturdays at 5 o'clock, he gets together 5 other black male comedians. And they do sort of a roundtable of black comedians discussing race in America. And one of the one is a ex-cop out of New York. But these are all people who are making their living as comedians. And it's really fascinating. And when we say, it's time for people like me to shut up and start listening, this is the sort of stuff they should start listening to. So it's Carl Yard. You can just see his Facebook page, Saturdays at 5.
Cool. How about you, Eli? What have you got?
For comedy, I rewatched Dave Chappelle's old special, "Killing Them Softly." It's been on YouTube for free for years. Like, I watched it when I was in middle school on YouTube. I watched it again in high school. I watched it again in college. I watched it again last week.
It's been with you for your whole life.
Yeah, "Killing Him Softly" by Dave Chappelle on YouTube. It's awesome. It's one of the best specials I've ever seen.
When you saw only one set of footprints on the sand, that's when "Killing Them Softly" was Carrie.
And for my local business recommendation, there's a local pizza place around the corner from my house that I love a lot, and they're still open. Luckily, La Mama's Pizza in Alston. They do both pizza and Italian food, and they also do a full Mexican and Colombian menu. So like, they also do fried chicken as well. So it's like pizza, fried calamari, Cubano sandwich.
That's where it's got the cigar in it.
Yeah, exactly. I eat a full cigar and matches.
I would like to get. Oh, I'm sorry. What you were saying?
I'm good. That's it. I eat matches. That's all I was saying.
Oh, God. That's that smoky flavor.
Yeah, exactly.
I would like to recommend a show I saw on basic cable this weekend called Funny You Should Ask. Is anyone familiar with it? It's a game show.
Mm-mm.
So what it is what's that?
TBS.
It's no, I'm sorry, local cable, not even basic cable.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
know. It's some local affiliate. And what it is, it's Byron Allen is the executive producer, and he's on every episode. And it's a panel of comedians, and then two contestants who are not comedians. And the host, who's a former like Chicago sports guy, will ask the comedians a question, a true or false question, and then the comedians will give a funny answer, and then they'll say if they think the question is true or false, and then the contestants will vote on whether they think the comedian is lying or not. And it's very convoluted and it's very strange. And we were a little stoned when we watched it and we had a lot of fun. It's called Funny You Should Ask. It's on some local channel. Byron Allen is the executive producer, and he's quite a charming guy. So that's my comedy recommendation. And for my local business, gotta go with Star Market again. It's a good place. All right, Shane, take us home. What do you got?
Well, I would say, I would look into this further, but I'm a big fan of sensory deprivation tanks. And
Ooh.
speaking of having like interesting new experiences, I believe because of the salt of the water and everything else, I mean, it's like a distance thing. You're not with anyone else. I see them opening up some places. I think mindfulness is going to be as important as it's ever been, and it's a weird, interesting experience. It's kind of like meditation on steroids or something like that, which is a silly way of talking about meditation, but it just makes it, as someone who has trouble meditating but appreciates it a lot, it's something that makes it kind of easier to be like, oh, that's what kind of mindfulness and meditation is about. And so that's just something like, speaking of having new, weird, unique experiences, they're a little spendy, is the only thing. So, but every time I do one, I come up with some pretty great ideas that I would value at more like kind of shower thought type ideas, but more so that I would value at more than the cost of the float. Plus, it's relaxing. So that's my business. Since I gave bros a hard time, I would say that I really like the guys that do the bonfire on Sirius, Big J, and Dan Soder. Like,
Oh yeah.
even though they're like not typically like that style of comedy, usually isn't my thing, but I think those guys are hilarious. Um, and and then uh, I'm halfway through Kung Fu Hustle on Netflix
Oh
right now,
yes.
which is fun and I'd never seen before. And has
Fantastic
some good
movie.
laughs. And then I haven't seen Rory Scovel's new show, and it's not that I have like big expectations for it or anything, but I will say, speaking of live comedy, when it comes back, 2019, I saw him again. I've known Rory for a while, but I haven't seen him do live show in years. And I wonder if he's doing virtual stuff, because he would be the person to watch. He had been touring last year with going out on stage without any prepared material, and just like riffing with the audience and stuff, but like different than just regular crowd work, like building this whole narrative and like acting out this like impromptu play. I'd never seen anything like it, and it almost kind of like made me mad how good it was. I was like, do I quit comedy? I don't even understand this. I saw him do it. I talked with his opener, who had been touring with him, said he had never even seen him like repeat a premise. And
Hmm.
I mean, it was like 4 laughs a minute, like hard laughs. And I saw him do it 2 times in one weekend, I think 2 nights in a row. I didn't see a single repeat of anything, and it was all just improvised. About it was riffing off the different look of the stage. Normally I don't like crowd work and that kind of thing, and I have never seen such an incredible. The second time I saw it, I left the room twice because I was like upset and confused at how good it was. It was so incredible, and so I want to see his
The highest compliment from a fellow comedian. I had
yeah.
to leave because it was too good.
It made me too mad.
and so yeah, I like him on Instagram. He has a big heart and is into. I'm maybe biased because he's into some of the views that I have, but yeah. So Rory Scovel plug.
Awesome. Well, Shane, thank you so much for joining us. Your website is shanemauss.com.
MAUSS.
At Shane Comedy.
Yeah.
You can get tickets to our Zoom show, the Comedy Studio's upcoming Zoom show, on our website, thecomedystudio.com. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Shane, it was great to see you.
Thank you so
Eli,
much, Shane.
It was good to see you, but I see you frequently, so not as much decorum there. And yeah, everyone's
It might be a while, so let's do it again sometime.
Yeah.
We'll check back in on this beard.
Yes, I'd love to see the progress.
Yeah,
We'll
have
see
to
what
do a
happens.
Debut online performance on the studio show on Saturdays.
You know what? If I do a virtual show, I'll do yours will be the very first one.
Wow.
Got it.
Well, thank you so much, Shane.
Sure. Thank you guys.
We
We're
consider
holding your
that a
beard to
binding
that.
agreement. All right, everyone. Take care.
All right, good night.
sounds good.
Goodbye,
Bye.
everybody.